Hello, everyone, and welcome to Raising NA, the show that doesn't have a tagline yet, but we're here. We're in the Proving Grounds pod framework for now. We're gonna be pulling out the big guns for the graphics sooner or later. Hopefully by that I mean that we're doing it on next Sunday, next episode. But for
Yes.
now, we're still this.
So first off, thanks everyone for tuning in and welcome to the new show. This is all Smack's idea. Rafa, we paid you how much money? 6, 7 digits to be a part of this? What you want to give a guesstimate?
I
Oh,
didn't realize I was getting paid.
he didn't realize he was getting paid. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, this is definitely something that like we all push for. We love working with each other. At least I speak for myself with that. Smacks definitely push for this, and we're looking forward to doing something that covers every part of NA in a way that's really fun. And while this episode will not have everything a part of it, Smacks
We
and
couldn't
Rafa,
wait.
do you guys want to walk us through what our plans are? Because they're pretty
Yeah.
hype.
Yeah, we just couldn't wait to get all this out to you by this Sunday. But yeah, like we're saying, next Sunday we'll have all the bells and whistles and everything ready for you. But for now, we're here and we just wanted to make sure that we had an outlet to talk about all of the different parts of North American League of Legends because I mean, if you've been following our work, you know us from mainly the proving ground space, the scouting ground space, and everything to do with the semi-pro side of League of Legends, and a little bit of academy as well, as that has been integrated with proving grounds. But we wanted to incorporate LCS into that and international as well, and maybe a little bit of collegiate as well. But we're
Ooh.
here going to be doing a lot of stuff with that, and we wanted to just be some familiar faces for people who only watch Proving Grounds and want to get invested in LCS because as we all know, summer split is happening. It's starting tomorrow, and at the end of summer split, we've all seen how good Proving Grounds is. We know there's going to be a ton of changes. There have already been changes. There's already been a player promoted directly to LCS from Proving Grounds this very split. So we wanted to get ahead of the game. We wanted to make sure that everyone in both spaces knows just how good all of those players are. And we're going to be raising the expectations on all of them. Haha.
Also, in order to do this, we need to get a third. And what better person to get than
Yes.
Rafa? So, Rafa, welcome to Raising an A. As we are, I say welcome, but like we're all kind of like putting time into this equally, unless you're me, who is running late. That's why the show started late. But
I think
Rafa,
Mark's still playing TFT, so.
how you doing?
Yeah. No. I finished. I got a top
Ooh.
Oh, yeah?
three. So
Oh, a top
Nice.
3. Let's go. That's big time.
let's. Mm-hmm. Big dubs. Big dubs. Well, thank you. Thank you for reaching out to me and inviting me to help create this new show. You know what? Let's go ahead and get first agenda right off the table. If it's not in the correct order, then I am sorry. Or do
There
we
is
want
no
to save
order
that
to
for
this,
later?
don't worry. Oh, no.
So there's
Go
no
right
order,
ahead.
but before we get into like what we want to talk about, I think that it's probably best to cover like our plans for this show right off the bat.
Let's do that
Um,
then.
So, first off, you might notice if you are tuning into this episode in the video format, we have the Proving Grounds pod overlay. That is and should not be the case for next week's episode. We are going to go with an entirely new name, Raising NA, for the show. We might have a new theme song from our special co-host, Rafa. I don't want to put too much pressure on him. We don't want to affect the creative process too much. Also, the graphic designer that we have for everything planned,
It's Doc.
Doc, he is absolutely amazing. He did everything for PGP. If you guys love that look, we have directions and instructions for him that we're looking forward to. Doc will be helping us out in the future with that. And also, we're going to have a fourth person on the mic that won't be on cam, but will be kind of chipping in when he can. That's going to be Lorne or Leche, or Milkman Lorne, or Milkman Leche as well, which we're really excited about. He's an observer for LCS. He is in the Miami University, Ohio varsity program as a student, and overall a good friend of all of us from what we've done in amateur. We're really excited to have him be a part of this as well. So this won't be just 3 people. We're actually going to have 4 people because he's going to be chipping in with all that good stuff. And we have even more plans too, Smacks. A lot of stuff that we're really excited about.
Yeah. We're gonna be coming to you guys with a bunch of fun bits and just really fun games and stuff that we're gonna be playing on this show. So we're bringing in a whole bunch of really cool stuff, and it's all just really exciting. I'm really excited. I'm really glad that we're getting this going. We just the 3 of us and Lauren as well. We all just really love talking about league esports in North America, and we get so hyped around the players and everything, and we just figured, well, if we're going to talk about it anyway, why not use the time that we have a little bit less of to be on air for this split and make it our own. Pop
Yes.
off on this channel, and maybe we can entertain some people along the way. So that's why we're here.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. As Rafa sipping on, what do you got, tea? Fancy tea?
It's just black tea.
Just
Squirtle.
black tea in a Blastoise cup.
Hey, let's go, Squirrel.
Squirtle Squad.
I say Blastoise is Squirrel. That's my bad. Just
Squirrel
skipping
Squad.
to the end game. As I don't have any cup like that. I do have a hat that's blue. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, you're
but-
a member of the Squirtle Squad.
Yeah,
I'd say.
I'm throwing it on backwards. We played some shitty golf today. But hey, a 50-year-old won the PGA Championship, which is pretty cool. That is a record by over 3 years in the PGA, and very exciting. As I don't think we want to talk about ageism just yet, but I think it's about time that we get into our first topic of what we've got. As
Oh, no. Mark has something to tell us.
what do you
So
got, Mark?
I'm good to. So, we're not going to be talking about semi-pro until later on in the show, but and I will address it again. I'll do a TLDR when we get to that point. But starting today, if you saw the announcement video, you will see that I addressed that we are talking about the 3 main levels of competition in North America: LCS Academy and semi-professional. For the past 3, 4, 5 years that amateur has existed, it's been called that, amateur. But we are starting to receive so many resources from Riot, from third parties and sponsors, and you have organizations that, even though they're not franchised in the LCS, they are competent enough and they have staff that they should be respectfully called semi-professional organizations. You look at Wildcard, you look at Supernova, Resolve, just to name a few. These are orgs that have, to my knowledge, have been well established beyond just this year alone and in other esports titles. So, with that being said, now that we are starting to get franchised LCS organizations as well involved into Proving Grounds, calling it just amateur esports doesn't feel like we're giving the level of respect and prestige to the amount of time that players are putting into these competitions within Proving Grounds. And I think that's only fair that we start addressing all the tier 2s, the tier 1s, and in the eventual Proving Grounds between the competitions between academy teams and semi-professional teams. Because if we saw no org from Spring Circuit won by taking down Cloud9 Academy, and if we just call that an amateur team, then we are not giving the level of respect that we need to be giving to the players that formed together. Yes, we can argue that because they're a team that had no organization sponsoring them, maybe it is just an amateur team. But why not just a semi-professional team? And it seems like such a small thing to be calling it semi-professional versus amateur. But amateur is so general and so wide encompassing that an amateur org, if you call Wildcard that, gives it less respect than a amateur org that has like no staff or has no owners or just barely started out. And I feel like there needs to be that clear distinction, and especially as we're trying to get more viewers to care about this scene in tier 2 and tier 1, if we start addressing it as semi-professional, it's going to be taken more seriously. So thank you for coming to my TED Talk. That is the end of my show.
Can I get an amen? Can I get an amen in the Twitch chat
Can we
right
get
here?
some progaz in the Twitch chat?
Any hallelujahs? Any hallelujahs in the chat? All right. Well said, Rafa. And yeah, we're gonna be trying to stick to that one as much as we possibly can, because semi-pro is just a better descriptor for the stage of play.
So we've got pro, academy, and semi-pro that we're going to be talking about. But also, I think that we have to start actually with some international news, Max, as we have the results of MSI 2021 and I guess the region that we somewhat expected to win, potentially, won in a rather good series.
I personally was definitely expecting Damwon to win the whole thing at the start of the tournament, but as it went on, they looked shakier and shakier, and I think that the result was pretty expected for today. So for those of you who missed it, spoilers, RNG won 3-2 against Damwon Kia.
In a good series.
Yeah, so I think that that's all cool and good. Gala got it was Ghost who got a pentakill actually. I don't think Gala got one.
Game 4.
But yeah, it was all really cool. Great tournament, lots of fun. Captain Flower said "Holy shit" on cast, and it was all well and good. The thing that I want to talk about with this though is that Blue Side won every game, and I can't really remember the last time where something like as cut and dry like that happened in like at this volume, where it's literally the pinnacle of an international tournament, the two best teams in the entire world, and it kind of felt like on paper whoever was on blue side just wins, and it's like I think if you look at it through that lens, it's a little bit less like woo RNG and more like oh RNG.
Honestly, I think that if you play that series back 10 times, that blue side doesn't win every game, but that's just kind of what ended up panning out. There were a few picks that are better on blue for this patch, but nothing that for like tournament was like, oh, like this pick needs to be picked B1. Like that wins you the game, right? Like that didn't pan out during the pick man. I think it was somewhat of a coincidence, but also I thought that RNG was just straight up the better team, and keep in mind that like they didn't have first choice of pick going into the game, like the first game, right? So I think that they just kind of ended up being a coincidence of what ended up happening.
Hey, Barrel was also kind of running it down, so
I mean, did you watch the rest of the tournament? Like that's
I did.
Mad Lions almost won because there was some running going on. So
yeah, I remember last night Dimitri was like, "Man, I could play Nautilus better than Barrel," and then he pulls it out a normal game. He's like, "Okay, maybe I can't, but still."
Barrel's supposed to be a world's caliber professional player, but all I can say on the finals is that Canyon got to pull out Nidalee in game 4.
His skin.
His skin.
Nice.
It looked pretty damn good on it. Unfortunately,
he's pretty good at that chance.
Yeah. You can't always play Nidalee when the priority is for champions like Rumble and Morgana and Udyr, which, don't get me wrong, this jungle meta, them being brought into the forefront was cool at first, but like Udyr, I'm like, man, it seems like there can never be a non-trifecta of powerhouse junglers. It will always be just 3 really good ones, and then if you pick anything else, it's like you're straight up trolling, and you're at a severe advantage.
Yeah, so jungle's like a tough role, because I feel like at any time, if you are a jungler, You need to do so many things well in the game, like as a pick itself, right? Like you have to be able to clear, you have to be able to gank, you have to be able to team fight. And those are 3 symptoms that are never needed in any other role, right? Like Lucian. Does Lucian, he clears waves and he team fights okay, right? Or like Victor, like he doesn't get priority, but he team fights great. Like he can't skirmish well. Like there's never another role that needs to be as like have as many necessities as jungle. And that's why I feel like the jungle pool is always narrow. And I think that whatever happens to the jungle that Riot does, it's always going to be just like 4 to 5 champs. So that's why like,
Well,
I know that I was like
they
hitting.
did attempt inclusivity, right? With the new changes. Like they
Eh,
did that was like the main goal, right?
it
So
was the
the
goal,
smite you
but
can
we're not going to see that
or
when play starts. It's
I
like I
mean,
think,
yeah,
yeah,
for pro, I think that's pretty fair. Like in a especially in a longer tournament where it's all one patch like MSI is, I think that's definitely fair. But I do think that for something like for something like a regular split of a season, like the upcoming Proving Ground split where it's played on multiple patches, I feel like the way that they're going with it kind of seems like it's watering down the role, but then again, it does on paper open up for more jungle strategies with just the changes that they implemented, like the smite being more powerful. It can break the scuttle shield. The camps are slightly
yeah,
lower on the respawn. I feel like it is gonna do something like what you're wanting to see, or at least that's what it feels like. That's what you're getting at. Is
yeah.
that
But
you
like,
you
even if they
wish
get
that
to the
it would
point
more
where
diverse?
like taking camps is better than not taking camps, or like vice versa, like there are only so many junglers like are ever going to be good. Like if you look at
Mm,
any patch of league, there's only been 5 playable junglers, and that's kind of the point I'm getting at. And
I
so
see.
I think that like there is a big difference in the game when taking camps is better than not taking camps, right? And that's been like if you look at season 3 and you have junglers that have 40 creeps at the 20-minute mark versus this season where it's like if you are not able to full clear at the fastest in the first, 3 waves, then you are trolling. That's a
Is
big
that
difference in like
the
the junglers that are good, but there's still only ever 5 or 6 junglers good. And that's something like I hit on too is like
Hmm.
with Blabber's champ pool because I know that that was like a big story for C9 getting into this. I tweeted this on the first day of MSI where I was like, I am worried for Blabber's champion pool because
Mm.
some champ like he has always had a narrow champion pool, and Morgana Rumble were very new to the champion pool, very different styles than what Blabber was able to play. And Blabber on those champions did not do well. Now, fortunately enough for him, Udyr ended up being the best pick on the patch, apparently, at the end, even though, like, I don't really
Eh?
know how that ended up happening. I think that Udyr is pretty weak and easy to play around, but that's a Blabber champion. He did very well in that in the spring split, but his Morgana and Rumble were rather poor. And I think
Mm.
that's pretty major when you go into the next, into the patch and what ended up happening for C9.
Yeah. What do we think like the ramifications of that? The ramifications will be for C9 when they come back. Because like, is that a thing that you can look at and fix for Blabber? Is this going to be a thing where people in NA are like, oh, Blabber can be banned out, and then we can adapt from there, and maybe Cloud9 doesn't remain the best team.
I would say that when you look at last year as an example, where Cloud9 during the summer 2020 split had a massive advantage, or yeah, it's like going in the beginning of summer, they were killing it, um, and then halfway through, that team just crumbled because
Mm.
Blabber's champion, the meta shifted, Blabber's champion pool was not able to adapt as easily, and Cloud9 fell short in being able to get to Worlds, and their spot was, or their projected spot in being one of the top 3 teams was eaten up by FlyQuest and or TSM. Depending on
Mm.
whether you look at FlyQuest or TSM, the team that like surged in that summer. I know there's arguments for both, but um, regardless, I think Blabber has come a long way as a player. I kind of see him in many ways as a Dardoch that didn't blow out as hard, and he didn't have as many attitude problems as Dardoch, still being this prodigal or this prodigy NA jungler that is supposed to be domestic, supposed to be super, super, super mechanically talented. He can play things like Lee Sin in Italy, and he can, but the fact that his highest win rate jungler is something as mechanically simple as Udyr, I think doesn't, it doesn't speak on his skills. It just speaks on how you're able to translate and consistently deliver results in, you know, in these competitive environments. So I think as we get into Summer Split, I think the experience that Cloud9 got, being able to take games off of RNG, off of Damwon Kia, shouldn't affect their ability to perform in Summer. I still think they're going to be a top team, and I think their attitude that they showed in terms of performance and improvement is really mature. So, or not immature, but like good. You
Yeah.
know, like every time they took a loss gracefully, and they said, "Yeah, there's things that we could have done better." And even though, like, for Perks hasn't shown on stage the $6 million investment in terms of results so far, but I think the attitude and the atmosphere that he cultivates and creates in Cloud9 has been really beneficial. And
Yeah, it's just slow burn.
yeah, but Fudge, man, Fudge has been killing it,
Yeah.
and I will proudly declare that I was a Fudge doubter at the beginning of the split. I think many people were, and
I
he
was.
shut up all the criticism. So props to him for just ramping up.
Yeah.
I think that, like, the weird part for NA is the fact that, like, if you go into an international tournament as an NA team and you take a best of one off of a Chinese team and a Korean team that is the world champion with 4 of the 5 pieces of that roster coming back, you'd feel pretty fucking good with that headline as any NA team that's gone international. But you're missing the part where there's inconsistencies, and that is what ended up happening to NA. And my question is, do we think that's because of a small sample size, or do we think that's because NA has this innate problem?
I personally think it's a combination of both. I think that they had a lot of situations in those best of one games that were completely winnable, but they never seemed to have what it takes to close it out. I think if they won all of the games that were winnable from the beginning, it was probably like an 8-2 scoreline, I would say, for Cloud9. Like the early game was not bad. And I think that is somewhat of a testament to Blabber in that the early game was still okay for a lot of them. But then again, it was Blabber most of the time who then made it unwinnable. So I I don't know, man. I think that if it was best of threes, then maybe they have a better showing. But at the same time, like, yeah, those inconsistencies would still happen in the later games and everything. Like, the entire NA regular season is best of one, so they should be used to this by now. And I I don't know. I don't want it to just come down to like, oh, NA is just infrastructurally worse, and they can't find that consistency in all of this. But it is sort of feeling that way. But I guess like the good news is that Damwon also looked super inconsistent. That's sort of like my solace for a player like Blabber is that Damwon had a player like Beryl for this tournament who was just as inconsistent, if not more so. And I don't know, like I think Showmaker's probably just the best player in the world.
Dude, Showmaker did his best season 7 Faker impression.
Yeah.
It was that much of a 1v9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. To get back to NA though, like you said, Cubby, I think that on paper, if any team from any other region that is not the top 3 comes into this tournament and they get those results, they're gonna feel pretty good. But we're sort of like the laughing stock region. Everyone has to come and make fun of us. It is what it is. We lost a game to Pentanet. What are you gonna do? But
Hey,
yeah,
Pentanet was pretty good.
Yeah.
Pentanet is now the best team in the world, Smags.
Pentanet was pretty
Really?
I will say that Pentanet felt like this year's or feels like this year's Unicorns of Love, where they don't care what everyone else is playing. They are just busting out their own picks, and I love that flair. And it's always something that I wish NA would do more often, and which is one of the reasons why I sincerely believe that one of the best teams that NA ever sent to Worlds was when Cloud9 sent the 2018 roster.
No.
Because I know, like Cubby can disagree with me. That's cool. My reasoning is because that we didn't play and base our playstyle off of what Eastern teams were doing or what other teams were doing. Cloud9 brought Singed, Hecarim as an Aatrox counter. They busted out Draven as well, although Vitality technically did it first with Attila.
Yep.
But so like watching Cloud9 like just bust out counter picks and champions that adhere to a playstyle that they wanted to play and not just copying what whether it's the Koreans or the Chinese teams were doing, which is something that TSM does every single year that they go to Worlds, which is why it's like, man, like I don't understand why you think that this is going to change. Like you can't take a strategy that, even though like a team that is doing super well and they're doing well with it, you can't be a better version of them because they already are the best version of themselves at it. You have to you have to develop your own play style in your own region and then take it over to Worlds, which is why I applaud and give a lot of credit to Pentanet, because they're playing Kiana mid, they're playing Zed mid, they're playing Fiddlesticks jungle. Like, that shit is cool. That is so dope.
Cubby's look says that is cool, but also bad.
But like also like they don't give a fuck. So
sometimes I wish we wouldn't give a fuck. Like,
so,
yeah, that's why Cloud9 is so exciting in international tournaments, or historically has been, because that is that team that North America sends.
The immediate no for me comes from, you said the best team that we've ever sent. The best team that we've ever sent to an international tournament is Season 3 or Season 4 Cloud9. And for me, that's pretty inarguable. I know that Season 3 Cloud9, that ended up coming out pretty flat because they got beat in one best of 3 by Fnatic, and the strats were leaked. Season 4, they almost took Samsung Blue to 5 games. And I think it's easy to hindsight Harry and say, like, oh, yeah, 2018 Cloud9 was the best because they made it to semifinals of Worlds. But when it comes to the best team that like we ever sent and competed, I think that's a strong Season 4 C9 or Season 6 TSM. I know they flopped really bad. Or a 2018 TL to MSI in terms of international strength. Well, those are the 3 best teams for me in terms of
I wasn't accounting
sent.
for MSI, so that's my apologies. I can concede. Was it 2019 TL that made finals?
2018 TL did. And that was a very strong
I thought
team.
2018 was the Ole one. And then 2019 was the finals.
2019 TL is the one that they played against G2.
Okay,
finals.
Yeah. Okay. That one. Because that team was like dominant domestically, right? Like they were good.
That was peak Team Liquid when Double F was on the roster.
Yeah.
So
I think that like I have trouble. I know that something I tweeted early in the tournament was that the broadcast was pitching this as potentially the best NA team that they've sent internationally, and I vehemently disagree with that. I thought that this NA team wasn't even the best NA team that we could have sent, because this team, it took 5 games to beat TL with sub in Armeo. Like, how
That's
can
true.
we say that this was the best NA team that we've sent internationally when they can barely get out of their own region versus the second best team with the sub? When you look at the TL team, that bot lane is same page. Mid lane, I'd take Perks over Jensen. Top lane, Alfari smacks Fudge every single game of that, like, best of 5 too. And then you're playing with a sub jungler. I have trouble saying that this is the best team that, like, we could have sent internationally. And yes, they beat the Korean team. Yes, they beat the Chinese team. No, they didn't make it out of the group stage. And we can take that for what we will. But
also, if they, I just want to throw this out there as sort of a doomer point. If Vietnam was allowed to go, we would have placed 6th. We would have been easy 6th. Oh, yeah.
I actually don't disagree
with
with that.
We would have been 6th. 100%.
Vehemently disagree with that.
Did you watch the GAM games?
I did.
Gam looked pretty fucking scary, man.
You should. They beat Froggy, man. Froggy.
Nope. I think we beat him.
All right. Well,
I don't know, Cubby.
Whatever, Cubby.
Based on
Hater.
the inconsistency that we saw from Cloud9, you know, we took games off RNG and Demo Kip, but we also dropped games to Pen and Net, and it could have been a completely different world. I think at that point, Cubby, you can argue the logic all you want, but logically we shouldn't have dropped games to Pen and Net in the first place. So there's a lot of things that just didn't play out to what things were to be on paper. And that's the beautiful thing about international competition. Shit happens, and like, and no matter how much theory, no one could have, like, reasonably in their right mind predicted that, except if you were just running on fucking faith at that point. Or copium.
Copium.
Poor copium.
We need more copium after this tournament, man. I don't know. Anyway, any closing thoughts on MSI? That just happened today. We're kind of getting to the doomer NA points, but
I know,
mean,
we're like
we
30
deserve
minutes into the recording.
It happened today, you know.
Do I think that NA as a region has major issues? Yes. Do I think that we should talk more about those issues because of MSI? No. I actually think that NA outperformed MSI, and personally, I got the Rumble stage predictions perfect, as Rafik can attest to, because I did those predictions in his server.
Mustache twirl.
Everything went as expected. I did not expect them to get out of the Rumble stage. So I think that we should take a step back in NA and realize where we're at as a region and not have super high hopes. And I think this wasn't the best team that we've ever sent internationally, and that was a poor broadcast narrative that was pushed. So
cool.
I will say there is one domestic NA talent that leveled up not only at MSI but also throughout this entire year
Fudge.
compared to yes, but that's a player. I'm actually not talking about a player.
ooh.
I'm talking about a caster, and Isaac Azale Cummings Bentley, baby. Because this dude, when he first came onto the broadcast, I was like, oh yeah, he's super smart. He knows his stuff. But he
was so
for
hyped
me,
today.
He throughout this entire split, he has really developed his on-air personality and his presence, and he is just way more alive, way more animated than before. And if Azale ever sees this, listen, like, I'm a big fan, and I've always considered you a very smart analyst. I think compared to other casters, you were more flat or more monotone in delivery in the past.
He extended the Z-axis.
You have.
That's what he did. It was so good.
So
I really enjoyed today.
Yeah, I hope you can take this criticism, you know, in the most respectful way possible, because, like, you know, back then, I was like, you know what? I think I prefer seeing Azale on the desk because he has time to prepare his points. And as a color caster, it always seemed duller compared to other options at the time. But you have really ramped the fuck up, my dude. So much props to you. I like, as casters ourselves, we understand how hard that can be to, like, really push a part of yourself to bring that personality out more often, you know. And I think you and Clayton put on a not only a hell of a MSI finals cast, but also even the spring finals for LCS. That was also a hell of a
Yeah.
cast as well. So,
It was way closer series than we
Woo.
thought. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Woo! Good job. Speaking of LCS, that's going to be our next topic as we move on over to there.
Woo!
Okay.
So we have a few roster changes that we're going to go over. The format's exactly the same. We've known what it is for the entirety of the year, so we don't have to go over that. But there have been a few roster changes. The first one that was announced was the 100 Thieves one, with Abadage and Reapered entering the team. One is the mid laner, one is the coach. And Damonte is out of the org entirely. It's going to be Ryoma playing Academy. And Zix is also gone. They've got Reaper now.
Is that confirmed, or are we leaking that?
I don't know. That's my assumption. I could be
Okay.
wrong.
Okay. Yeah. Rafa, you want to start with those thoughts or me?
For 100 Thieves,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we saw a video a while back on it, didn't we? Abadage and Reaper were coming into 100 Thieves. Did I
Yep.
miss something that is not
No,
supposed to be?
Demonte
that's the
out
same thing.
isn't announced yet.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Is he not going to be playing for Academy then?
That is the rumor. I will phrase it
Yeah.
that way.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure. Well, I mean, I guess I'm just assuming, but
We are pretty
I-
positive that Demonte is not in the academy system. I
yeah.
can speak more on that.
Okay. Well, I don't know anything about that. I am excited to see Reaper come into the coaching role for 100 Thieves. I don't know if Zix was the issue. I wanted to take some time to go back and look at the 100 Thieves vlogs to see if they like ever covered or went about like what the players' feelings were and if it was like a coaching staff issue. But I know that after a split where you come in, you have this hyped up roster and you don't have expectations, then you know Papa Smithy being the general manager, something's got to change. You have to make an adjustment. And if Zix was the kind of most mutually felt option that had to be changed, shit happens, right? I don't think, and I don't take anything away from Tony because he's the one that we have to thank in the first place for bringing 100 Thieves next to the forefront and
Yeah.
basically starting off this huge cataclysmic change in a positive way of bringing LCS and org's attention to semi-professional. Because then after 100 Thieves next, we now have 4 additional teams within the space from TSM, Cloud9, Dignitas, and Evil Geniuses.
Evil Geniuses.
So but I also have a lot of respect for Reaper. I know he was the team that coached my favorite international team for 2018 Cloud9. Funny how we get back to that. And Reaper is incredible. So hopefully between him and Abadage, that 100 Thieves find the changes necessary to. I don't care if they win. I just want them to be a strong performing team so that if they are the ones that make it out domestically and go represent North America at Worlds, then they do us proud.
I have a ton of respect for Zix. He arguably had the most successful team that NA has ever sent internationally in terms of results in the MSI roster that took finals against a pool that was much stronger, I think, in terms of the international teams that were sent that year. Not to mention the fact that he has consistently been on top 4 rosters for NA. That said, Reaper has as well and has developed a lot of talent with C9, and we're going to have to see how that performs. I'm more curious to see how Abadage does because I think this is a good benchmark for NA versus EU talent in terms of mid lane. Abadage in LEC, when he had a good day, could take lane off of the best mids in EU. when Abadage was, on his champions and was having a good game. I want to see if that is the same case in NA, if it is a struggle for him or if he does very well. I also want to see how he does against the worst teams, because I think the thing that I always give LEC is that is the one league where it truly feels like any team can beat any other team at any time. I think that the bottom half of LEC is significantly better than the bottom half of LCS.
For
And
sure.
it's pretty easy to see that when looking at gameplay as well. I think Abadage is going to be a very good measuring stick for NA versus EU. And I am concerned with how that will look like. When I say I'm concerned, I think that Abadage stacks up pretty well against the NA mids. I think this is an upgrade for 100 Thieves. And 100 Thieves is very clearly pushing for Worlds. And Abadage, if they feel like that's the piece that can get them to Worlds, ultimately, all 100 Thieves has to do is beat TSM. We're pretty set on C9 and TL going to Worlds. Granted, catastrophe. I think that 100 Thieves, they are looking to beat TSM. They feel like they have better chances to do so with Abadage rather than Ryoma or Demonte. So this is the move they made.
Okay.
Yeah.
I agree with all the things you're saying. I think that this is a good move overall for 100 Thieves. I think they will be stronger. My question. Does Abadage enter the side of EU mid laners that has Bjergsen and Jensen on it? Or does he enter the side that has Febiven Jizuke on it?
Okay. Febivin in his first split with CGA in the spring was really good. He was an MVP candidate. No
Okay.
lie.
That's not the Febiven I'm talking about though,
Okay.
and you know that.
Okay. Okay.
If it helps, let's put Crown over here too.
I thought Crown was
Oh
good.
man, Crown tried. He was on off the game.
And
tried.
that's a LCK import.
That's LCK. You're right. But my impression is that in the long run, he is in this realm. That's my impression. I think the Perks is in the long run over here as I'm doing the Karate Kid motions. I think Perks is probably in this realm. Abadage, though, this is my thought.
I don't
What
think
do you
it's
guys
fair to compare him. I think he's going to be a middle of the table LCS mid laner, but I'm curious to see how he stacks up because I think it's a good measuring stick with him versus LEC. Because in LEC, he truly was a middle of the pack mid laner that could beat the top mids on a good day. And I think that puts him at a middle of the pack LCS mid laner that's probably better than average. So yeah, I'm curious to see what happens.
All right. I think that they are competing for that third spot as well. I think
Yeah.
that it's more than just TSM though. And with that, let's get to our second roster change, and that is for Evil Geniuses. Definitely is out, and Danny is in. Let's go. We
Straight
got
out of
Shiro.
semi-professional mother. Let's go.
We're here. We are Proving Grounds. And we've got Danny in LCS. Now, this is a team that I am super pumped for. I have been on the record saying that I thought Deftly was the fourth best marksman player in the Evil Geniuses organization in the spring. I had Danny, Shoryu, and Jojo Pyun over him. And it seems like they agree with me because all three of those guys are still there and Deftly's gone. So, Danny, I think this is an upgrade. I think this is maybe going to have a little bit of growing pains at the start, but we always say this, AD carry is the easiest role to plug and play. Danny is a mechanical freak. He is so good, and I think this is going to make Evil Geniuses competitive for that world spot also.
Rafa?
All right. I think we take down the copium from there. I am excited to see Danny play in LCS. Don't get me wrong. I still think that this roster has some issues that they still have to overcome.
Man,
And like I
What kind of issues, Rafa?
so when I remember spring performances, let me pull this up real quick.
Impacts, Fenskaren. Jizuke, definitely,
And Ignar.
and Ignar.
So
What do you have
I'm
to say?
looking. So the mid lane is where it's the issue for me because
I
Jizuke has,
agree.
because
But
this
Danny should be more of a carry than
If you are
definitely.
EG though, Jojo Pyun turns 17 for next year.
now if you put in Jojo Pyun over Jizuke,
They can't.
You
They
can't
can't.
this year.
I know. But I'm willing to take that copium dab and say that EG could be a world's caliber roster. I think like now if Jizuke cleans up the consistency issues that he had throughout Spring Split, because a lot of the time these games are being decided for Svenskeren whether he gets to play the game or not if Jizuke actually is having control of his lane. Because there's a lot of times where Jizuke is losing matchups that on draft should not be losing. And then it creates situations where it's like, okay, the game plan is that Jizuke has been drafted a counter pick or a strong blind pick that he should be able to have control for, and therefore Svenskeren can play aggressively, look to counter jungle, look to get aggressive vision into the enemy jungle. Jizuke is now down 10 CS for some fucking reason, or Jizuke is getting solo killed. It's like, what the fuck is happening? What is this? And so then the whole game plan goes out the window for EG, and then it's up to Ignar or Impact to try and salvage, which they have done a few times throughout the split. Impact kind of had some like SKT Faker T1 or SKT Impact coma codes inputted to save the game for Evil Geniuses. But other than that, once I see Jizuke become more consistent, maybe I'm willing to entertain the thoughts, Max.
Okay.
And
I think that
all right, Cubby.
Danny, aka Shiro, if there was anyone in Proving Grounds that could take that big step to go to pro and not just academy, would have been him. And part of that is because ADC is the easiest role to plug and play. And the part of that is that team has some really veteran members of it. And if you're going to have a rookie like that in, what better way to pair him than with players like Impact and Ignar than to put, that's a great position to be in, playing with people like that. I think the other part that's interesting is I have a pretty good source. Let's just say that Shiro to LCS as a full-time starter may not be the only roster change or roster that we will see out of EG this split. I have good word that they might be looking into another change. And I will leave it at that. I think that as long as EG has Jizuke mid, and as long as EG is trying to make things work with Danny or Shiro, I think it's very safe to say this team is not competing for Worlds this year. That said, I also have a source that says that Peter Dunn is looking to continue his streak and is putting a ton of time as head coach into this squad. And he wants to make sure that EG makes Worlds yet again.
This year or next year?
This year.
So
I do not
contracts, is it?
know if EG can make Worlds this year. I honestly don't.
It's contracts, isn't it?
I honestly do not know if EG can make Worlds this year.
I'm going with contracts. That's my call. And I'm also going with the call that they do make it to Worlds. Because I believe...
You think they're going to beat out TSM and 100 Thieves, and it's going to be
Yep.
C9, TL, and EG.
Yep. That's my call.
This year, I do not think that's the case. I think that TSM and
that's my
100
bet.
Thieves are leaps and bounds ahead of them.
That's my bet. I'm sticking with it.
Okay. That's all
I
I
think
have to
Danny
say.
does it.
Overall, happy for Shiro / Danny. I think that guy's insane and deserves to be playing at an LCS level. Let's see how he does.
All right. Let's go. Well, now that Cubby's done being cryptic, we can move on to our last roster change. And that's going to lead us into our Academy talking points as well. The roster change that we have left, as just recently announced, is Golden Guardians. where Solo has joined the team and went directly to LCS, and Chime has been promoted out of Academy. So Niles is out, Newbie is out, and we have a new top support for Golden Guardians, who are unfortunately in last place. But based on how the summer split is working, that's going to affect them a lot. They might be gated from playoffs just off of their spring performance, which is a really big deal.
I think that GGS comes in with a stronger roster, will not be 10th, but do not have a chance of making Worlds, and will be 8th at best. And that's all I have to say about GGS. I will also say, if I was a manager for GGS, I see why they made the decisions they did. I think it's somewhat reasonable. I would not have made the same ones.
All right, let's play the game, Cubby. What would you have done?
I would have put Prismal and Chime in and kept Niles in LCS.
Okay. I think that speaks for itself. But do you want to explain it at all?
Yeah, I think Prismal and Chime were the best bot lane in Academy. Quite a bit. I think the only bot lanes that were better than them were definitely King and Isles, and maybe Yon and Ayla. That was it. I think Stixay was.
I think they were better than Yon and Ayla, actually.
He was, yeah. It's debatable. I think that Stixay had a great split. He was the best performing member of GGA, but the issue with that team is that no one wanted to pull the trigger, and I know that Prismal is a shot caller, so I would have put Prismal in instead of Stixay. That's my
Prismal's
reasoning.
so exciting,
and Prismal's
that
really
player,
fucking good at this game. So yeah, that's my.
That
reasoning.
player has a bright future for sure. He is very vocal. He's very mechanically talented. He can be a win condition. He can be weak side. Prismal's my man. I think that guy is going places.
Yeah.
But,
now the reasoning for Niles dropping down, I know from speaking with Niles himself, he's bummed. I think it's fair to say that anyone's bummed if they drop down from one level to another. I hope that much like Viper going down to Amateur, Niles is able to pick up a lot of confidence, and Academy has a lot more games to split. And if Niles does well, I think that he should have been in Academy in the first place, frankly. If we look at Niles versus Tenacity in SGC 2020, Tenacity got the best of him pretty much every time they went up against each other. Tenacity was a decent mid or top laner in Academy. Niles was a lower tier top laner in LCS that had to sacrifice a lot of his playstyle to make sure that his team was able to engage. I think that Prismal and Chime somewhat fixes that. That's my reasoning for keeping Niles up there. But hey, if Niles goes to Academy and picks up a lot of confidence and develops a little bit more, I think that he still has a good trajectory to be a top laner in LCS. And I hope that this path gets him to that point faster. I don't think Niles in LCS was a fair. I don't think it was very fair to him. I don't think that he was ever going to be set up for success with that roster. It was a great opportunity, but he wasn't going to succeed. And I hope that him in Academy picks up some confidence, is able to get to LCS very soon, where he does have the chance to succeed. I think that's the best path for Niles.
I personally am of the opinion, and I know it's going to be disagreed with, because from a general manager standpoint or a brand preservation standpoint, it is probably the worst thing you can do to intentionally give a reality check to a prospective young player like Niles. But I think the way he played in semi-professional last year during Scouting Grounds was, even though he's a strong mechanical player and he's a strong laner, he needed to get bopped by LCS top laners so that he could be humbled. I think that was I think it sucks to lose, and it sucks to be at 10th, and it sucks to be always on the short end of the stick in a lot of the games that Golden Guardians lost. And it's probably not good for the overall Golden Guardians brand to be losing all the time. But
it's not good for any brand to be losing all the time.
Sure. Yeah. But I think for Niles specifically, someone who does have a lot of confidence, sometimes overconfidence and ego, you need to be pulled down a bit so that you are playing more respectfully towards your opponents. And you can't always get away with stuff that you got away with because you were playing against a majority of piss randoms in semi-pro. So like,
Right.
you know, I and
Top lane
it could
is
be
hands down the weakest role in semi-pro too.
yeah.
Like, I think
If
it's weaker than support at this point.
yeah, I it I think it goes without saying that, you know, maybe it would have been better for Golden Guardians if Niles had started off in Academy, but I think that wouldn't have achieved the same reality check that Niles got in this prior split. I think and I sincerely believe in Niles that he has a strong enough of a character and a will that even though this sucked and it was emotionally hard for him to deal with, he's going to become so strong because of this and that he's going to rise above and like you said, gain a lot of confidence now that he's playing an academy against weaker competition overall and the next time he has a shot in competing against in LCS, he's going to be miles better
I
than
need to see Niles versus
Isles
Viper
better.
instantly. Getting on to our next point.
Yeah. Actually, one more thing about Golden Guardians Academy, or not Academy, Golden Guardians LCS. Uh, do they make playoffs, aka
No.
eighth or above? And
Oh, they need
okay,
8th?
I'm pretty sure they need eighth. If it's the same as last year, which it might not be, but I'm pretty sure you need to be eighth to make playoffs. Do they make eighth or above? And if so, who do they beat to get there? I think
No.
they will beat CLG. I think
Bayora's crying in the background.
I do not think they beat enough teams
I think they
to
beat
get
CLG. I also think um in in the perfect world for Golden Guardians in which IMT doesn't put Viper and Anda into their LCS roster, I think they also beat IMT. But if Viper
Choco
and
doesn't like your
Anda
answer.
if
I
Viper and
I
Anda
don't
go
think
to
Viper Anda
LCS,
is a humongous. I don't think it's an upgrade for IMT.
uh, I disagree.
Okay.
I think Xerxes kind of sucks. I think Viper's way better than Revenge.
Okay.
That's my take.
They
Actually,
are
you know
both
what?
originally Ribbon players.
I don't
You
think
know what?
One
If
GGA
they
makes
one is more
playoffs,
developed.
and if they do, what do against the like C9 or TL? They do nothing.
I don't
So
I don't
they
think
get
they
3-0'd.
I don't think they win games in playoffs.
No, they
But
get 3-0'd.
you know what? Now that I'm thinking about it,
They
if
had
IMT
Prismal,
doesn't
they
make
would
any
take a
roster
game.
changes, I think IMT, if with the exact 5 players they have in LCS right now, I think they're 10th. IMT
Okay.
behind CLG.
Okay. I think CLG is 10th.
But we agree that it's not Golden Guardians. Poggers.
It's not, but I got GGA 9th. If GGA had my roster, they would make playoffs at 7 or 8. And they would take games off the top teams in best of fives, but they won't. So
Okay.
not with this
Okay.
one. Where we going?
All right. Well, yeah, that's what we got for LCS. We believe that it's going to be starting on June 4th. That's the
No,
week
that's confirmed. It
That's
is
confirmed?
Yeah,
Awesome.
June
It's starting
4th,
on June 4th.
It is confirmed.
and then the last date is August 1st.
My
of the regular
announcement
season.
Sweet.
confirms it.
Awesome. Well, that means a week from now we probably won't have too much to say about LCS unless there's more roster moves. But for now, that's our LCS segment.
Next
Let's
week,
move on to
we'll
Academy.
have a preview.
Oh, what's up?
We'll
Yeah,
have a preview next week, but yeah.
Let's move on to Academy. We'll start with Golden Guardian since we're just talking about it. They have made some changes. Niles is in. Newbie is in. We already talked a lot about Niles. I think we
can we
should
just
talk
pair
about
this
him
with
in the
IMT
context
as
here.
well?
Yeah. So, well, there were 4 Academy changes, to be fair, but I think we talked to death about Niles. I'm excited to see him click some heads in Academy. Let's move on to Immortals though, as you said, Cubby. I am of the firm belief that Immortals Academy is the team to beat in Proving Grounds summer. I think they're my favorites to win it all.
Are we that high on Viper and Anda coming to Immortals
I am.
Academy?
No.
I am.
Wow. Li-
No.
I know that no org roster won Proving Grounds circuit, but I think you're being disingenuous to the rest of that roster in Value Big and Five Fire, and how that as a unit took
Max,
Proving Grounds.
I remember sitting in a call with you where you were talking about how Pretty was shit off of champions that were not
Okay.
named Oriana.
Okay. Hold on. Hold on. You are taking my words out of context. You are taking my words out of context. Pretty was bad on non-Oriana because the team was bad when he wasn't on Oriana.
Okay.
There is a clip from Tim Seven Usen's podcast where Jensen Go says that exact thing. I'm right. Okay?
You were
The
somewhat
team was
right.
bad. The team was bad when he was not on Oriana. That is not Pretty's fault. Pretty is good, and Pretty's an NA resident now, which is cool. But that doesn't matter for this team. Pretty is going to have more opportunities to play other champions in this split. I think obviously Viper and Anda are the best top jungle in the league. I think that Joey played the best split of his entire career in the spring.
Yes.
I think Keith
Yes.
is there. So yes, I do
Joey-
think that this team is going to win.
I think Keith is there, and that's it.
Joey had a fantastic split because he knew and realized that that Leona was still as broken as she was beforehand because she was not touched whatsoever. But guess what? Leona, that shit's getting nerfed, whether you like it or not, Joey. So that's
right.
unlucky. I think that for IMT, if I am on that team, my goal is top 4. And I think that's
pretty good.
That's a great goal for IMT, but they are not the team to beat. The team to beat is C9. And you cannot change my mind that the team to beat is not C9. Also,
I'm taking
TL,
the IMT copium.
TL getting knocked out in the bottom 4 will not happen again. They are
That's
a
true.
top 4 team.
That's facts right there.
So I think the
one's
goal
facts.
for IMT is top 4, and I do think that they are top 4 of Academy. But some of the average teams are pretty good again this split. So top 4. That's the
Also,
goal for IMT. I'm not saying they're top 4. That's the goal. As we're
One
telling
other
Toka
thing.
to shush.
One other thing. I do not value the rest of No Org low. I think that Five Fire, Value, and Big were very key pieces to that roster. I think they all deserved the win. I think they were all amazing performers. They're not in the fucking split, guys. It's only those two left. They're the only defending champs. Why are you getting
And?
on my case for saying that this team?
Is better
I'm
than
not
C9.
valuing the other
That's why I'm
guys.
getting on your case.
Because they've
They're
got
not.
Viper and
They are
Man.
not. They are not better than C9.
Viper's the best top laner in the league and is the best jungler in the
Nope.
league. Pretty is going for
Fire greater than Anda. Viper good,
There's no
but
way.
Darshan is just as good for that team, and King Isles are hands down the best bot lane, uncontested. And Copy can hang
You
with
know
Pretty.
what, Cubby? You know
You're
what,
wrong.
Cubby? When the first best of 2 comes through with Academy and we watch IMT 2-0 C9, I will not laugh. I will not send you anything. You will just know that I am there and I'm thinking of you.
All right, whatever. C9's team to beat. It's fine. Moving on.
Well, we didn't give Mark a time to say anything. Mark, who's your team?
Moving on to Mark.
I've been just eating popcorn, enjoying this little spat between you two. That's
It's not
cute.
close.
I don't think I'm not with you, Smacks, that Immortals is the best team somehow in this roster. I'm very excited though to see Anda in this league. I think Anda will be one of the top 2 junglers, if not the best jungler in this. Fire has some things left to prove for me. Fire has definitely had a better competitive split than he has in his recent time in NA, when he was on Team Liquid a couple years ago, and then when he was briefly on Supernova and semi-professional. Both of those were not that impressive.
Shuren's the best jungler. The only one, Anda might have been better in that team, but not in this team, and not with the meta changes.
Oh, I'm just talking about an individual standpoint. I think
Mhm.
Anda individually is far better than Fire, but
Nope.
we can competitively. Then I still
I
think
agree with you,
Cloud9
Rob.
is Cloud9 is still the team to beat.
Eh.
Mhm.
I
Thank
think
you.
the support system around Cloud9 is far greater. I think the support staff and the coaching over there is just fucking stacked. Like Cloud9 has really taken some of the smartest minds in like around EU and NA, very high on Viger V2 and Max Waldo as coaches for that team.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of respect for Jensen Go, but he's one man against two, and then obviously like Cloud9 are able to also lean and pull from uh Mithy if they want to. I mean, the Cloud9 just has a huge infrastructure that they can
I
coach
don't
this
know
team
if
to.
they're going to be able to do that though, because Cloud9 LCS is going to be focusing full-fledged on Worlds,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's no way that they get access to Mithy and like the whole staff. I agree with you, but I think it's really unlikely. In the same vein, as we transition on to our next academy team, I don't think that Peter Dunn is going to be as accessible to both of the lower EG rosters as Spring, because the LCS split goes longer than Academy this time around. And if I remember correctly, Proving Grounds finishes well before the LCS playoffs actually begins because there is a triple round robin of LCS games this time around in the summer.
Hmm.
So with the roster changes for Evil Geniuses, as Shoryu is out, Team Luke is in.
Poor Shorty.
Yeah, poor Shoryu, by the way. Pouring out for Shoryu.
When
Very, very sad.
The
But
only reason that's happening, by the way, is because of visa issues.
it's visa issues.
I think
Yep.
Team Luke's really good and deserves an LCS
Mhm.
spot, but Shoryu does not deserve to lose his, and
Yep.
shit happens. Poor Shoryu. So yeah.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
well,
But that
since
team's not going to have the same access
yeah,
to the coaching staff, which is a little bit of a bummer. I also think that Shoryu is probably a better performer than Team Luke. So I is slightly worse. They also will have to go through a little bit of growing pains with having Team Luke in. I think that it's probably not going to matter too much. I think that team is still a contender for the top spot,
Yep.
unless that roster change that you're hyping up happens. Because if they're
Who
taking a
knows what
player
it
out
is?
of this team, if
Who
they're taking a
knows what it
player out
is?
of this team, then I think it might get a little shaky. But this team is pretty scary because they ramped up to be a real threat. They made top 4 after being 10th in the regular season. Can we just like have a moment to realize that huge feat that Evil Geniuses did?
Yep. It's
That's
pretty
wild.
crazy. Yeah.
yeah,
And not only did
no,
they place top 4 with that academy team, they placed top 6 with 2 teams. Their third team made
Yeah,
top 6. I think that's
that's
even more
nuts.
impressive.
I also want to
So
point out that not, I don't want to, completely adhere to the ping narrative, but because Shoryu was stuck in Toronto and playing on Academy where they're all trying to play on Academy land and he has like 80 plus ping.
Yeah.
And then as soon as EG goes to Wisdom Giant Slayer and everyone is forced to play on 60 ping or on the Chicago server and he finally gets 20 ping and he pops off, I'm like,
low ping Shorty hits different, man.
Pretty good.
dude, low ping Shoryu, kind of fucking sick, kind of beast.
Kind of nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, EG is moving everyone out to LA. They said that in their announcement. Team Luke, his
Yep.
last tweet is that he's flying out to LA in 2 days, if you don't believe it. Sure, you can't do that because of visa issues, so that's what changes. I think EG is the same team. I think 80 is the easiest role to plug and play. I think Shoryu is a little bit stronger than Team Luke at the moment. I think Team Luke will develop well and be just as strong as Shoryu by the end of the split. Same team. I think their top 4 is what their goal is. I think they're in the same boat as IMT. I am more interested in what you think of GGA, as Niles and Newbie, as we mentioned before, are in instead of Tally and Chime, as Tally is going back to whatever next opportunity lies ahead of Tally. and Chime is promoted to Golden Guardians, and Newbie is on GGA now. What are your thoughts?
So I remember sitting with you guys and discussing whether or not Solo would be moved to LCS when we heard that he was joining and Tally was out. Turns out that happened immediately. But I remember talking with you guys and saying that if Solo were to go to LCS and Niles were to go to Academy, that I thought it would be a good change for both players and both teams. I think that that is still true.
Prismal,
I
Niles,
I
Yunbi,
can get into I can get into
Rosethorn?
that in a bit, but
Woo!
I still think that is true. With the support swap, I think overall that it is a better change for LCS, and overall it is going to be maybe a little bit of a better change for Academy.
I think the GGA
I
top 4 in
I
Proving
am
Grounds and in the Academy split. Change my mind.
I'm not tremendously high on Newbie.
I'm not either.
I think he was the worst performing player in all of LCS.
That is
Um,
a very intelligent take.
I do think that Niles should perform better than Tally. Niles has experience playing with Rosethorn, so it's not like that's going away his synergy with his jungler.
To
They
be
still
fair,
have
they had
Prismal.
0 synergy in Scattered Grounds.
Yeah.
That
They
said,
still have Prismal, and Prismal's a beast, and they still have Yunbi, and Yunbi's a beast. And I think that's a correct take, Cubby. I think this team is going to be way better
that said,
than what their
yeah.
last regular season was, where
My
they placed
top
ninth.
4 for Academy, it's C9, 100 Thieves, EG, and then it's either IMT or GGA. And I think that both teams are gunning for that 4th spot. And I honestly don't know which team takes 4. I think that based on paper, I would favor IMT a little bit, like just a little bit. But the goal for this team should be top 4, and I think they have the potential to do it. They were good.
This
But
is
yeah.
this is my we haven't interacted with chat too much, but this message is too funny. Everyone tied and ended up top 4.
True. I mean, we
That's
only talked about the good
amazing.
teams. I'm not talking about COG
I mean,
Academy.
during the first spring split for Academy, since there's only each team played only what
9
games.
Yeah.
There's like 3 teams that ended up tying for 6. So like, but we have quadrupled the amount of games for the upcoming summer Academy season as my dog Choco. What?
He heard CLG Academy and he's not happy about it.
Holy
See?
shit.
Told you.
Come on, Chogo.
If Pat Cat was in here, he'd be doing the same thing.
Choco, you are not actually flaming teams. You are getting mad at me for something else, and I don't know what. I gave you food. I gave you water. I took you outside before we got on the show. What could you possibly want at this hour? You'll
That's what
have
CLG
to wait.
said
He
to their
wants us
players
to
too.
not talk about COG, which I also
Okay.
do not want to talk about.
Jesus.
As there are no changes
Well,
there.
You know what? There is one change, Cubby. They have all 5 of their players now, and they ideally will not be making 11 roster swaps in one split. That's a change.
True. That said, my expectations are not as low as TSM, but still low. So that might bring us into TSM.
Okay, yeah. Let's talk about the final change that we had. TSM, they have swapped out their jungler, another swimmer. Babip is gone. Hyper, aka War Machine Hyper, not the unified producer, is in for the jungle. And they also have a totally just a sub guy's mid laner named Takeover, who is totally just there to shadow sword. He absolutely will not take over, as his name would imply in the middle of the split. When Sword continues to go down 60 CS in lane, he's just there to watch. Right, guys?
Yeah, of course. He's not going to replace Sword, who is on average down like 50 creeps a game. Not going to happen whatsoever. It's fine. We're not worried about that at all. I think Takeover takes Sword spot, and I think TSM still, if they don't bottom 4 Improving Grounds, I'd be surprised, just like this last split. And the only reason they didn't bottom
Copy.
4 in Proving Grounds was because of bracket.
Are you saying that the integrity of the TSM announcement is somehow lesser? And are you saying the takeover will become the mid laner for this team?
Who knows?
Were they lying through their teeth?
This
Yeah,
is
Cubby's right,
accent I'm
guys.
kind of digging.
Yeah, Cubby's 100% right. Swords out. It's tough, but it was a bad split. They tried. He's been with them for a while.
Yeah,
but...
Sword was in TSM Juniors. He has not panned out to be the prospect that they thought. I think that Takeover and given his solo queue rank is going to be the starter.
Yep. Also, Hyper, cool. I think that guy's a really good mechanical player, and he's NA too. So I think that's just
yeah. I think he gets smoked by the majority of members in Proving Grounds, but might be okay.
Yeah. It's cool that they're going with an NA player. I think that might mean that they speak English this time. So that's cool.
Correct. Who knows?
Yeah. Moving on. Yeah, we have pretty low expectations of TSM. Mark, do you have anything to say?
I will say I'm excited to see how Hyper stacks up against the rest of the jungle pool, because a lot of the times War Machine Hyper has been on multiple rosters in semi-professionals such as Radiance. I think he also had a stint on Lotus.
I think he was on Just Randoms most recently, right?
Let me see.
Wasn't he on the team with Chim and Short Hop? That did okay.
Oh yeah, Just Randoms. Yeah. So he's played for Mirage for a short bit. There's Radiance. Issue is Critical was one for the spring season of last year. Obviously, he's also been in Collegiate for a bit over at ISU.
He's been around.
No. Hyper has been around for the past 2-3 years, and the thing about Hyper that I always remember is that his mechanics are insane. His decision making has been questionable, but I mean, I feel like there's a correlation between insane Lee Sin players and like the need to make flashy plays versus whether that flashy play actually does something useful in the game, and if that flash could have been saved for like a different point in time. And
Mark is currently speaking from experience, by the way.
Yes, I know this because there's always the decision that you can make. It's like, you know what? I could go in, ward hop, kick, flash this person into my team and make us make the highlight reel, or I can actually save my flash to get out after I make a pick onto this dude. It's not as flashy. It doesn't look as cool, but it could be the smarter play. And as you know, young Lee Sin players always want to go for the flashy play because it's the cool play, and it's the one that ends up on Twitch clips and it ends up on League of Fun or YouTube highlight reels and whatnot, right? And from a branding perspective, it could be technically the correct play. But now that he's in Academy, I hope that and I hope that over the past 2 years from watching his other play, that Hyper is going to take his time in Academy seriously, which I do believe that he will, and he's going to grow. I don't know if this TSM Academy roster is going to be above the top 5. They're probably bottom 4, but
I think they're bottom 4 of Academy and Proving Grounds. And if Takeover, he's the guy that has to change my mind. So,
yeah, I agree. We'll see.
Yeah,
but Hyper, there's a lot of strong junglers to learn from in Academy. So
there are.
This change doesn't surprise me too much, but yeah, it's not like big shock and awe like Immortals is. I think Immortals definitely has the biggest upside roster change of all 3 tiers of play, I would say. I think that's probably the biggest upswing of them all.
I would agree with that. Okay. In terms of that, only other topic we have for Academy is format change. I think playing 4 times the amount of games can only be favorable, and I think that Academy will come into Proving Grounds much, much, much better. And
Yep.
I'm curious to see how that plays out as we go.
More recent games also. They don't have to wait 2 months to play,
Yes.
which is a
Also,
really big deal.
it's very public that Academy teams can participate in the semi-pro tournaments, so the Tier 2 tournaments, and the only one to do so far is GGA, who dropped a single game to a team that
Cinnamon
was
bread!
a
Woo!
core of high schoolers. So take that for what you will. As I'm saying that
Cinnamon bread, let's
GGA's goal is
go!
top 4, and I
Cinnamon
think they're a
bread!
top 5 Academy team.
Oh, yeah.
Or,
Yeah,
5,
they're
6.
going to be good.
I think they're 4,
Um,
5, 6. I think that's GGA's goal.
I will say in that game
My
too, even though they
expectation.
dropped it, they actually had a really strong lead.
They
they just-
actually fucking egoed. Because
Yeah,
Niles
they-
built Nasher's Tooth.
They
and
will lose every game
Zonya's
that Niles
on
builds
Voldibear.
Nasher's Tooth. They will lose all of those ones.
Yikes.
But
Okay.
they might win all the ones where he doesn't, which is the exciting part. So
Moving
we'll see.
on to semi-pro.
Woo!
As we have format changes for semi-pro. The format changes are 2 game days per week, which are going to be Monday and Tuesday, starting
Down from
tomorrow.
4.
If you're listening to this live, tomorrow would be May 24th, which is a Monday, at 6 p.m. Eastern. There are going to be 2 game days per week. Only 1 Tier 1 tournament instead of 3 in the last split. If you win a single Tier 2 tournament, you are now qualified for Proving Grounds.
Or
and
if you place second in Helix, you also make it.
really,
Two
Okay.
2 spots in Helix make it. So there are only 2 more. Well, unless Academy drops out, which probably won't happen, there are only 2 spots left for a semi-pro once it comes to the Tier 1.
All right. And also, guys, I think we have to have a crab rave moment for our first one. I will pump the music through. However, that said, we do have to crab rave because guess what, guys?
What's up?
Big is gone.
Tell us.
Cue up the crab rave.
Yee.
Woo! It happened. They're gone.
Big's gone. Let's go. We don't have to break the rule anymore on the podcast. I'm talking about Big. Crab rave is wrapped up from producer Cubby. But Big is gone, so no more Big.
Hell yeah. All right, that's happy. That's a very happy moment.
That is a
We're-
very happy moment. We're
Good
down
riddance.
to 4 tournaments.
No,
the
we
first
keep on
semi-pro
going.
tournament to start up is going to be Challengers Uprising.
Yep, they're kicking us off. Starting up tomorrow, we have Resolve versus Golden Guardians Academy. Those are our first teams that we're going to be seeing in tournament action outside of the OQ, which we got to see last week. It was a lot of fun. Hope you guys enjoyed that. We streamed a lot of those games over here. But yeah, we are we're getting into Challengers Uprising. There are going to be a lot less games streamed this time around, which I think is the first thing we should address.
Well, okay, so less games streamed on Cup, but that said, more games streamed of off-stream games, so we're going to have to keep up with the threads for those, if you are
Yes.
a fan. That said, I think the notable games for tomorrow, getting into what we have, is going to be... I actually don't have the schedule yet. I just have OQs up on my screen. I apologize. I don't have the schedule. I will pull that up as we keep on talking. Smacks,
We'll give it a look.
fill it.
So the schedule.
I
What
just
is
have run a
the-
show. I don't have info.
Oh, round 1. Okay. So there's also going to be Maryville versus Zoos. That's a pretty big one.
That's a
We have
good game.
AoE versus Evil Genius's Prodigies. That's going to be a pretty good one also. And I would say that Supernova Radiance is pretty interesting because
Really?
those
I think
are.
Supernova smashes the fuck out of them.
I mean, they might, but I think it's definitely an interesting one to have up in case that doesn't happen.
Fair enough.
Because Radiance could be an interesting team. Other than that, we have mostly games that I think are pretty easy to predict. Obviously, upsets can happen,
Can you run through
but
them all for day one real quick? And also,
there are
yeah.
yeah. So there are 8 of them.
And also share the
And
group or like the document with us.
yes. So let me put this in the chat.
I'm
Actually,
smiling very awkwardly.
there it is in the chat, and here it is for my good buds Cubby and Rafa. So the matches are as follows: AOE versus Evil Genius's Prodigies, TSM Amateur versus Revival,
That is a
Zeus
good
versus
match.
Maryville, Wildcard Black versus Cloud9 Amateur, Resolve versus Golden Guardians Academy, which is on stream, 100 Thieves versus Dignitas Mirage, which we probably will never see the light of day, Wildcard Red versus AOE Randoms, and then Supernova versus Radiance.
Okay,
So we have 8 matches each day.
my first impressions of this is that Group C is hands down the most difficult group to predict, as I think that Zoos get out, but Maryville, Wildcard Black, and C9 AM. I am favoring Wildcard Black, but I think that if any of those teams made it out second, I would not be surprised. Let's put it that way. I think that the rest of the groups are pretty easy to pick. As in, like, the 2 teams that get out. I think the seeding is debatable, and will be decided by the best 3 play tomorrow. And the matches that are on my docket are going to be AOE versus EGP. I think that is the most interesting match of the day. The streamed match, which some of us will be on, as in none of us.
None of us.
But Challenge Uprising will be on, as we are a part of the broadcast for that, which is cool. Will be Resolve versus GGA. I think that Zeus Maryville is also somewhat interesting, even though I think that Wildcard Black versus C9AM is more interesting, quite frankly, just because I think that group's so close. And then I think Wildcard Red versus AOE Randoms is something to look out for. I think that AOE Randoms are a decent squad. They're ranked top 10 right now over on Mobalytics, a ranking that I agree with because I gave Tim that top 10 list that he is using over there at the moment, and I think they're pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
They took third, fourth in UPL, right? And the 2 teams that got out were AOE and Revival, unironically, in the same group.
We are going to be getting a taste of that all tomorrow. And
Yes.
even though the 3 of us will not be on those streams, we'll all be in the Twitch chat. So be sure to tune in to twitch.tv/academy for all the games. All the games are going to be on Academy.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
Yes. And for every single tier 2 event, which is the first time in history that, I mean, I say that, but we've only had one other Proving Ground split in the spring. But still, guys, the fact that Riot is doing us a huge solid by promoting every single tier 2, Challengers Uprising mainstream on Academy, Risen Esports mainstream Academy, Helix mainstream Academy, and then of course once we get to the tier 1, Unified will be on Academy, but that happened spring, so it's the fact that all the tier 2s will be consistently on the Academy stream is absolutely massive. It is a huge, obviously it's huge for those 3 tier 2s. I think the biggest receiver, I know we're looking way far ahead and we can touch back on it again once we get to the middle of June, but it's huge for Risen because Risen by far is the most deserving. Like, I know they are considered amateur TO league, but at this point they can now consider themselves semi-professional because the fact that they have secured 2 spots with Riot now, first for spring and for summer, and they have been doing it on like an incredibly small budget, guys. So it's just shout outs to Risen and the staff over there who have been,
those are our boys,
who have been pursuing this thick and thin for the past 4 fucking years. They have run, I think, 7 or 8 successful seasons of their mainstream champions, this is where everything will be competing on. So just to see them now finally be promoted on Riot's main Academy channel come in June is going to be absolutely awesome to see.
I know that personally I won't be a part of the Risen broadcast, but Really excited for everyone that is going to be a part of that, and also
Mhm.
props to Joe for always putting on a good show and a good tournament.
Rando
Talking from a lot of the teams and players, that was
Rando
one of their
Joe,
favorite tournaments last year too,
Rando
with how
Joe,
smooth it ran for them.
Rando Joe,
That
Rando Joe.
said, what are your expectations for these groups and for tomorrow, everyone?
Okay. So I did give a light prediction for who I think is going to make it out of each group. I'll go through a little bit. I think that the contenders to win the cup tournament are Resolve, Golden Guardians Academy, Zoos, Wildcard Red, and Evil Geniuses Prodigies. I think that those five are the ones that are within reach currently on paper of winning the entire thing. And if it's one of those five teams that doesn't win it and it's an entirely new one, it's one outside of that realm, then I will be very surprised.
Okay, let me pose another question. Do you think GGA is a favorite coming into this tournament?
Yeah.
Okay, Rafa.
I think you have to remember that Golden Guardians Academy, while I think they are a favorite to win the Academy split, I think you have to look that Challengers Uprising only has three. They will get out of this group for sure, but I don't know if they are actually in the running for at least. They could make quarters, but I don't think they're going to make semifinals. For Challengers Uprising.
So you think they get knocked out in the first round of playoffs?
Yes.
Okay,
And,
so that doesn't
and
for me that does not make them a favorite for this tournament or for Academy, and I do not think they're a favorite to win Academy. I think the top four is their
take
goal.
first.
so
I think
so
that's their
so
goal.
let,
I don't think
let
they
me
do
clarify. Let me clarify. I think that because there are quadruple the amount of games in Academy, that Golden Guardians can have a potential of making a deep run in Academy. But I think because Challengers Uprising is a very short tournament and it's very compressed at the beginning, where Golden Guardians are now just starting to play with this roster more and build up synergy, I don't think it's going to be enough games to show their peak form in Challengers Uprising. I think we're going to see a better Golden Guardians and a stronger Golden Guardians throughout the Academy split. So that's my take on it.
that. Okay.
All right.
I think that GGA have the easiest group to get out of. I think that 100 Thieves next, and especially Mirage, do not have much of a chance, even though I think that 100 Thieves next have a chance to qualify for top 6 in the long run. Just they need time. Resolve has already played with 4 out of 5 members playing with each other. I think that they win the series tomorrow against GGA, and I think that GGA will get out of this group, but as the second seed, and therefore I think they get beat by any of the above in terms of AoE, EGP, Zoo, from both from Group A, Zoos from Group C, and Wildcard Red from Group D, the unanimous top 5 that we have for amateur. When I said their goal was top 4 for Proving Grounds, I think that is the goal of any team that is not C9 or TL going into amateur or academy or Proving Grounds. I think the GGA are going to be out in quarters just like they were last split. Even though I think that Prismal is very, very, very good and should be starting in LCS.
We shall see. That's going to start up tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we get our very first taste of both of these teams in Group B, which is really cool. And we get to watch our cool friends do that. Beatdown and Visions are coming back to. Well, Visions is coming back to Cast League. Beatdown's been here for a bit, but
Woohoo!
yeah, I think that I think that puts a nice bow on things. You guys better tune into the Challengers Uprising tomorrow and the next day. The next day is when the three of us will be on, so that'll be cool. Yeah, I think that wraps it up for our semi-pro conversation. we're gonna have a
Uh,
lot more to talk about after the games for sure this week.
I think we should give lightning round predictions for the games tomorrow.
Ooh, there are a lot of games.
Yeah,
Um,
but just run through them. You can't
all
even
right,
think.
all right,
You
all
just
right, all
have
right. Okay, here we go. AOE versus TSM Amateur. I think AOE wins.
That's no, it's AOE and EG. That's the first match.
Oh, I'm looking at round 2. My bad.
Yeah.
AOE Evil Geniuses Prodigies. I think Evil Geniuses Prodigies wins.
I think
Copy.
AoE wins early in the split.
Mm. I'm actually unsure of this. I
That's not very lightning round of you.
I know. The problem is that after seeing AOE get 3-0'd by Revival, I know they didn't have our boy RBM,
They did not.
but there's a lot of other things that AOE were doing that I was like, oh man, it cannot just be Trick being like the thing, like swap, like RBM's really good. I don't think plugging in RBM into that team immediately solves a lot of the clutch issues that they were facing that Revival won. I'm still of the opinion that Sketch Dreams is insane, and he played incredibly well, except for Game 3 and team fights on the Aphelios, but his laning phase is absolutely incredibly strong. But but Shoryu was also really good. So
But
I want to
also,
see.
Skytech's new, and I think he needs time. That's why I have
Skytech.
AoE early. Also,
Skytech excites me.
is it unanimous among the three of us that TSM take fourth in this group?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Sam.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, shit. Hope you're not a TSM fan listening to this, as we think the TSM unanimously will take fourth, and this is hands down the most difficult group, besides possibly Group C, to predict. I think Group B and D are way, 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 way easier to predict for me.
All right, so that's Group A. We all think TSM is going to lose. Group B.
Yep.
Who takes Resolve versus GGA? I'm going Resolve.
Resolve wins, and since they won that best of three, they get out first.
And 100 Thieves win. Yep.
Whoever wins that best of three gets out first in that group, by the way. The other one gets out second.
Makes sense.
Sure.
Zoos, Maryville, Wildcard Black, C9 AM. Who's getting out of that group, and who's winning tomorrow?
We're lightning round predicting right now, Cubby.
Mhm.
And I think Zeus beats Maryville.
Yeah, Zeus beats Maryville.
Zeus favored. I take Zeus. Who is the
I think-
second team getting out of that group, though? That's the big question for me.
Maryville.
So, Maryville did beat Wildcard Black.
Wildcard Black in the 2-1
But
on the first day.
But I think Wildcard Black it out.
Nah, man.
Yep.
Spearaxe is about to gap everyone.
Nope.
But Spearaxe won't get my boy Robbie Bob! Robbie Bob is going to Pitt Smurf! He will take that
Okay.
whole group.
All right.
He is but I truly believe in Wildcard Black that they have very strong solo laners, and that top 3 core of Wildcard Black is very strong, and it is only matched by the top 3 core of Zeus Gaming, because you have Tuesday, Alorum, and Griffin. So
My concern is Clam. If Clam does all right, I think that Wildcard Black takes second. But I do think that Wildcard Black takes second. But that's a concern for that roster.
yeah, we are getting very into the nitty gritty, but yeah,
I
will
think
say
that's the hardest group to predict, hands down. Because
it is.
even if C9 AM made it out and they're the weakest team in that group for me, I would not be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
Even if
I
they made it
think-
out, I would not be that surprised. Like
I personally think that
ass lightning.
okay, here
it's
just
worth the discussion.
take this into account. I think Wixie is the second best AD carry in this group, potentially first if he just ramps up over Raheen.
In the group?
No, he's the best AD in the group.
He's the best AD in the
Yeah.
group.
Oh man,
Mhm.
I guess we are. I know Cubby is on the I don't like Raheen train, but
You
I-
cannot get solo killed in every 2v2 at Proving Grounds and expect me to be high on you as an AD.
Also, Wixie's
I'm very
just
high
good.
on Raheen's positioning in the late game, but once he needs to prove to me that he can get auto lane. Once he
Okay.
proves to me that him and Rhino can get out of lane, I am a fan. But he's not proved
That's
that yet.
fine.
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. My analysis still stands that Wixie is the strongest part of Cloud9, and
I agree.
he is the reason why Cloud9 can actually get out second.
I think
Of this group.
Wixie is top 6 ADs and is pushing for higher in this entire tournament.
Wow. Okay. All right. I
Top
still think
6?
Wildcard Black win tomorrow.
Yeah, top 6.
AD?
Yeah.
No.
Here's my lightning round for ADs that I think are good. Shoryu, Gorica, Array, Arrow, okay, the lightning
Prismal?
round's going a little bit slower.
Prismal?
Prismal and
That's 5.
Wixie. That's it.
I have Instinct above Wixie.
I don't.
Okay.
All
Group
right,
D.
lightning round for Group D. Wild card
is-
wins, Supernova wins.
Same.
For round 1, correct. For who gets out, I have a wild card in Supernova as well.
Cool. All right, we lightninged that one. Perfect. Great job, guys.
Okay.
Cool.
I
All
don't have
right.
anything else to cover.
That is our semi-pro conversation. We have one more slight shout out to make before we're all done. Actually, 2 of them. The first one being thank you to RBM for helping us out with the video. Really
That was
appreciate
fun.
it. Want to
Very
immortalize
nice.
that in this actual first episode. Thank you so much, Peyton. It was hilarious. We are big fans of your work.
That was fun.
Second shout out. We over here at Raising NA are big fans of all aspects of North American League of Legends, except for the Sheikah one tricks and solo queue. And with that being said, we do want to give a quick shout out to Collegiate, which is coming up.
Let's
True.
go.
There's going to be the top 8 coming.
By this
and,
time
you guys
next
better
week, that will be over.
Yeah. So you guys better tune into that. That's happening all throughout this week. Just after Cup, it's going to start right up. So definitely
take
tune
a-
into that.
For Collegiate, by the way, I'm gonna take a huge dab of copium right now. Bethany wins the entire tournament. Let's go.
That was a big dab of copium.
All right. All right. Well, with all that being said, yeah, that's going to be it for the first episode of Raising NA.
I think that Bethany doesn't win C-Law, and I think that Maryville also has a tough path to win C-Law.
Are you
Cool.
saying?
Well, we're gonna check that out.
I think Winthrop win it all.
Will be fun.
probably. But yeah.
Drops out. Winthrop
anyway,
has more TSM players on it. So
I had a good ass time. I'm excited for this. Next week, we will hopefully have a new logo, a new look, and a 4th member in Lauren as a producer. So stay tuned. We got a lot planned.
yeah, thanks guys so much for tuning in to the first episode of Raising NA. Thank you to Rafa for joining us on this journey on the Proving Grounds Pod channel. And yeah, definitely tune in next week. You can find us on Twitter at PGroundsPod. We're going to be posting updates on that channel as well. We're going to be doing this every Sunday at 10 Eastern time. And from the looks of it, it's probably going to last about an hour and a half or more than that. Because we'd like
It
to
was a
talk about
crawl.
stuff.
Yeah.
We're hanging out. So yeah, definitely thanks so much for tuning in. We're gonna have this up on all of our audio platforms. We might be a little bit delayed on the usual like the app ones outside of like YouTube. But if I was reading Cubby right earlier, they will be there eventually on like Spotify and Apple and all that stuff. Yep, I'm getting the thumbs up. So we're gonna be doing that. Tune in to that. If you're a Spotify listener, if you are an Apple podcast listener, if you're an anything of that listener, gonna be maybe a little bit late, but we'll be there for you. And I hope you're there too. See you next time on Raising NA. Bye.
Bye.